Hello, and welcome to Embrace Her Evolution. This podcast celebrates the limitless power within every woman. I'll be your host, Amanda Aguilar. I'm an Emmy Award winning TV news reporter, an empowerment speaker, a mental health advocate, and your biggest cheerleader. Together, we'll embrace the twists and turns of life, from personal growth to relationships, career aspirations, and everything in between. If you're trying to level up, if you're ready to rediscover that confidence you lost, if you want to learn how to create a life you love and deserve, then stick around. Embrace Her Evolution will give you the insight and tools to bridge the gap between knowing better and doing better. I am so excited to join you on this incredible journey. So buckle up, babe. It is time to embrace your evolution. Wow. Sis is back. I am finally back behind the podcast mic. Thank you so much for joining me for a new episode of Embrace Her Evolution. It's been about maybe 4 or 5 months since I released an episode. It's been a while, definitely. And so many people have reached out like, hey, are you going to release a new episode of Embrace Her Evolution? Like, that meant so much to me that people look forward to the episodes and that this podcast has really helped people on their own growth journey. So that just means a lot. And thank you. I can't believe I'm almost a year. It's been almost a year since I launched Embrace Her Evolution. So thank you to everyone that has just been so supportive. Even through a lot of my breaks, I definitely went through a longer break this time with the podcast just because I've had a lot of things happening in life, which I will get to that very soon. But excited to be back, excited to be sharing everything that has been happening because, yeah, I am really recording this episode as a very new version of Amanda Aguilar. So I released my last episode, I think, in May, and I knew that I was going to have to kind of take a break. The podcast had to, go in the back seat for a little because I was in the middle of a huge life transition. If you do not follow me on Instagram, I am now letting my podcast listeners know I stepped away from the news industry. Yeah, I am no longer a TV news reporter. I gave my resignation letter at the end of April, and my last day on TV was July 26th. So it's been almost 2 months since I've been out of news, and honestly, making that decision to leave news was so hard. It was very emotional. A lot of my close friends that I talked to, they knew this was very difficult for me. I was going back and forth of whether I should leave or whether I should stay, give it another chance. But I eventually came to a point where I knew it was time to leave. But it took me a while to get to the point of even putting in my resignation letter. Just for a little backstory, and I'm sure many people that maybe have watched me on TV or follow me on social media would never guess I was, questioning whether I wanted to leave or not. But I started questioning if I wanted to stay in the industry back in like January of 2022. Yeah, January 2022. That's when I got the nudge of like, I think you should leave. I think there's much more out for you. And then it took me until April 2024, April of this year, to finally take that huge step in putting my resignation letter in. And I truly believe that was a very huge step for me because it was official. It really made my leave official. I had an end date, right? But before I even got to that point of handing in my resignation letter, honestly, even after I put my resignation letter in, my brain was just coming up with all of these reasons and excuses of of why I shouldn't leave news or why I'd be making the biggest mistake of my life if I left my career. And so for this episode, I really wanted to focus on my journey through this process and how I was able to leave a career that I dreamed of since I was a senior in high school. And so when I was getting all these reasons and excuses in my mind, I had to remember my brain doesn't know what's real or fake. I saw a quote somewhere, I forgot who said it, but they said, your brain wasn't designed to make you happy. Your brain was designed to make you survive. It reminds me of the movie Inside Out 2. If you have not seen that movie, why not? You really should go see it. It just does such an amazing, beautiful, and such a creative way to explain our emotions and our core beliefs. I love that it was a kid movie, well, family movie, but I think adults really got a lot of value after watching Inside Out too. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. And so the brain reminds me of a scene in Inside Out 2. It was towards the end where everything in emotions headquarters was just freaking going haywire because anxiety took control of the control panel. And there was a point where Joy goes to anxiety and tells her she needs to let go of Riley. And anxiety looks at Joy, and I don't know what she said verbatim, but essentially she said that everything she was doing was to protect Riley. And that's what our brain is like. Our brain is literally a survival organ. Its job is to make us survive and to protect us. Our brain is biologically wired to protect us from harm. So when it comes to change, when it comes to moving to a new place, trying something new, switching jobs, our brain is going to try to stop us. So while we may look at switching jobs or moving to a new place, trying something new, well, yes, we may see, okay, this isn't a huge deal. Like, it's not life-threatening. This isn't harmful to me. Our brain doesn't see it that way because our brain is just responding to the fear and uncertainty of change. So in this episode, I'm going to share some of the mindset hurdles I had to grow through as I started transitioning out of the news industry. And I will say, mindset is so important when it comes to wanting the results you want, wanting to achieve the goals you want. Shifting my mindset was a fucking huge game changer when it came to this process of leaving a career I was very familiar with. It was such a game changer. It made the process less stressful and less scary. Because I don't want to say it wasn't scary at all or it wasn't stressful at all. It was just less scary and less stressful. And I really do credit that to being able to rewire my mindset. And it's interesting because when I was ready to leave news, as I was really starting to, apply to jobs and starting that process of transitioning out, I actually hired a career coach. And she was amazing. And I loved her because she also was in news. So she understood why newsies are looking to transition out of news. And I think I just burped a little. Hopefully that didn't come through in the podcast mic. I just had spaghetti and garlic bread. Okay, anyways, getting back to this podcast. So I hired a career coach and she helped me rewrite my resume because as a news reporter, we have a certain lingo that people outside of news would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? So she helped me rewrite my resume. She also did these mock interview sessions with me. Whenever I had an interview, she would help me, figure out how to convey that basically my skills that I have, you're going to want them. And so it's very strategy. The coaching program was all about strategy. So, yes, I was able to apply for lots of jobs and I was able to send in my resume and applications. I was doing all the actionable steps to get hired into a new career field. However, I had a lot of beliefs that were very limiting. They were not serving me in a helpful way, in the helpful way that I needed them to during this transition. And so I'm glad that at the same time, I was also working with another coach, Asia, who I've talked about a lot on my podcast. She was my self love coach and she is now my business mindset coach. I was also working with her at the same time, and she is a specifically business mindset. So as I was going through a strategy kind of program, I also had Asia who was really helping me shift my mindset to one that could serve me in a better way during this transition. And I also want to credit myself too, because I did a lot of self-coaching throughout this process. Everything that I learned in therapy and other coaching programs, I was able to apply in that season of my life. And so I want to share the mindset drama that I was experiencing. And I really don't think just a news reporter or news anchor will experience this kind of mindset drama. I think anyone who is listening to this that may be thinking of transitioning out of their career, you're probably gonna go through this same mindset drama as I did. So I think this is gonna be helpful for anyone thinking about leaving a career. And I'm going to give you some tools that I also used to shift my mindset. So I think the first mindset shift I really had to go toward was this acceptance. This acceptance that my current career, or then current career of being a news reporter, just wasn't serving my best interests anymore. It wasn't fulfilling me like it used to. I will say that being a news reporter is not just a job. It's not just a title that is on a business card. It is truly a lifestyle. You are constantly working 24/7. It's not just a regular 9 to 5. You don't just leave work at work. You're working before you start your actual shift because you're looking at emails you might have missed while you were asleep. You're replying to those emails. You're trying to find stories. You're also looking for stories for the next day. And then you have your regular shift where you're doing all things work related, and then you get off work and you're trying to find more stories. Maybe you're trying to set up interviews for those future stories you found. Like, you're just constantly working and you're constantly consuming work. You're consuming news because news happens 24/7. I think the average person maybe might have, I don't know, 1 to 3 news apps on their phone. I want to say I had 8 news apps on my phone, and all of those apps, the notifications were on. So I was constantly being bombarded with news headlines. I think that news is also a lifestyle because it's like every decision you make about your life is always somehow connected to news, to your job. Oh, I can't go home for Christmas. It's because I have work. Oh, I can't go to my friend's baby shower on a Sunday. It's because I have to wake up early Monday morning. Oh, okay. So I have my lash extensions. I also had gotten my eyebrows micro shaded. I didn't do that to look good. I did it because it would just be easier for work. I didn't have to get up too early to put on fake lashes or fill in my eyebrows. Like, everything I did was for work. It is so hard. At least for me, it was hard to not make being a news reporter my whole fucking personality, my whole fucking identity. And honestly, I'll admit, when I first started in news, I thought the lifestyle of being a news reporter was fun. I didn't care about working off the clock. I didn't care about being called in on my weekends to help fill in. Like, I just started in news. I was still fresh. I like to call it in my honeymoon phase, and I enjoyed all of that. So I didn't really care that I didn't have a work-life balance. I didn't care that my job consumed everything in my life. It was fun until it wasn't. And that's when I started getting burnt out, when it was 2022 and my mental health was definitely taking a hit. And I guess I just kept trying to push through because that's what we're taught to do, right? You have to just fucking grind, you push through it. I remember I talked to my parents that I was feeling burnt out from work. And I remember my mom telling me, like, well, I felt burnt out from work. Like, your dad felt burnt out from work and we still went to work. Like, you just have to go through it. Our parents were in survival mode, especially if they immigrated to America. They had to grind. They had to do everything that they could just to survive so they could provide for us. So that's all they know how to do. That's all they know how to do is push through. And I'm very grateful that my parents worked so hard, sacrificed so much to give me a better life. But to me, a better life isn't pushing through. It's not grinding. A better life is an opportunity to truly thrive. Being a news reporter, I did not feel like I was thriving in life anymore. I was just trying to fucking get by. I was just trying to get through the freaking week. Like, that was my goal. Just make it through the damn week. So I remember talking to a lot of my friends about how I felt, just being burnt out, just anxiety being at an all-time high. You know, I shared with a lot of my close friends, I feel like I want to leave news, but I don't know. Like, I was just so flip-floppy about it. And so I reached out to one of my friends, Nicole. She had just left her 9-to-5 corporate job. And I asked her, you know, how did you know it was time? Because that's what I was struggling with. I was like, is it the right time? Like, when is the right time? Like, at what point should I get to where I'm finally like, okay, I'm going to leave? So I wanted to get her insight. And something I love about having friends who are also on their healing journey and who are also in the coaching space is they just offer such a different perspective. They just shine a light on my blind spots that I can't see because I'm very tunnel vision. And so Nicole encouraged me to do a visual meditation about what my ideal day would look like. And so I remember that night before I went to bed, I did this visual meditation. I sat on my bed, I turned the lights off, I put some relaxing music on, and I closed my eyes. And I visualized myself in my bed sleeping. And then I visualized myself waking up in my bed, and I visualized what I was doing. I visualized how my day unfolded. I visualized how I felt as I woke up and went about my day. And when I opened my eyes from that visualization, I started crying. I started crying because my ideal day that I visualized didn't include news. And that was such a painful realization because, as I mentioned, being a news reporter was what I wanted since I was a senior in high school. This is a career I dreamed of. This is a career that, you know, once before, that was how I wanted to spend my day. And so it was really hard to come to this realization that that's no longer what I want to do. And I was just so sad, and I was crying, and I let myself feel those feelings. And then I realized, okay, I can stay stuck in something that I know isn't making me happy anymore. It just doesn't feel good anymore. I'm good at it. I was a damn good reporter, but I just wasn't happy anymore. So I can stay stuck doing that just because I'm good at it, or I can take action to get to what I saw in that visualization. I could take action to make that ideal day reality. So once I had that realization, I knew I needed to get clear on, okay, what do I want out of life? What is important to me? So I journaled some of my core values, some of my passions, some things that are important to me as I transition out of news, right? Because I really wanted to focus on designing a life that makes me happy. So I journaled all of this. Some of the core values that I wrote: fun, happiness, authenticity, community, family, my passion, dancing, mental health advocacy, women empowerment, youth empowerment. And I love writing things down in a journal because, especially this, because I literally saw for myself that what I wanted, news couldn't give me that anymore. And I think as you transition to a new career and as you create a life that really does excite you and is meaningful, you first need to know what is important to you. You need to know what your core values are. You need to know what your passions are. Companies and organizations all have core values. They're listed on their website, right? And as job seekers, we try so hard to fit in with a company or organization's values and their mission. In reality, it needs to be the other way around. Does company XYZ fit in with me? Does company XYZ fit in with my core values? Does company XYZ allow me to pursue my passions? So I was able to get to this place of understanding and clarity about what I wanted out of life and what I wanted in a job. Essentially, I had standards. Okay, we say we want standards for a partner. You need to have standards out of your life and with your job. And by getting that kind of clarification, that is what helped me accept that my current job as a news reporter was not meeting the standards of what I wanted out of life and what I wanted out of a job. It's okay to get to a point and you realize that your job just is no longer serving you. I entered news at the age of 21 years old. My values and passions were so different than the ones I have now. They were not the ones that I journaled about. And that's why news served me in that chapter of my life. That's why it fit into my life. It made that version of Amanda happy. But I have done so much growing since I was 21. I've done so much growing just in the past 4 years since I started on this healing journey. Of course, my dreams, my values, my passions, my priorities, of course, that's all going to change. It's going to look different than what it was when I was 21 years old. It is okay to grow out of a job you once dreamed of. It is okay that the job you dreamed of doesn't make you happy anymore. It is okay to have new dreams. We should always continue dreaming. It shows that you are growing. And you have to remember, it's not a job's responsibility to make you happy. Only you can create happiness. It is your responsibility to create that happiness within yourself. So as you get ready to transition out of a career, that's why it's so important to get to know yourself again. As adults, we kind of forget who we are. So understand yourself, understand what your values are, understand your passions, what's important to you. We have to start doing the work to understand ourselves before we can find a job that is aligned with who we are. So when I finally moved into this acceptance of me essentially having a new dream and that news just wasn't serving me anymore, there was this one thought that just kept popping up. That thought was, if you leave news, You are a failure. My goal since I got into college was to be an anchor in the Bay Area. That was my long-term goal. And everyone and their mamas knew that was my goal because I would tell everyone. I'd be like, yeah, once I'm done in Kansas, yeah, I'm working towards becoming a anchor in the Bay. I want to come home. A lot of people would ask like, "Oh, how much longer till I see you on my TV screen?" Everyone knew that was the goal, okay? And everything I did, all the decisions I made, it was always to prepare me to come back home to become a morning anchor. And so when I had that first nudge to leave news, I thought, girl, you have not even become a morning anchor in the Bay yet. You haven't even reached your goal. If you leave, you're a fucking quitter. You're a fucking failure, Amanda, if you leave. And then I started playing out scenarios in my head of what I thought people would say or think when they found out I was leaving news, like creating like this scenario in my head of what a group chat might look like. Someone texting their group chat like, "Oh my God, did you hear Amanda? She's leaving news. Oh my God, she didn't even come back to the Bay. She didn't reach her goal." First off, people do not care as much as we think they do. Not me thinking that I would be the topic of a group chat. Amanda, please. But what really triggered this thought of being a failure was when I would see other news reporters or news anchors post that they were leaving the industry. And I will say this happened almost every day. News, a lot of people are leaving news. And so it was every day that I feel like I saw someone announcing their leave from the career, but it was people that already were in their home market that would really trigger me. Most people, their goal is to get back to their home market. This is, where they were born, where they were raised. So that's why my home market would be the Bay Area. That's why I really wanted to end up in the community that raised me. Like, it's just so special to be in your home market. And so when I would see people in the news industry announce they were leaving and I saw that they were already in their home market, I was like, okay, Amanda, they're in their home market. They already reached their goal. They got back home. They have every right to leave this industry. You, on the other hand, girl, you haven't even accomplished that. That would make you a failure if you leave. And then, of course, thinking about leaving made me also think about who I'd be disappointing. My parents, everyone that supported me in my journey, but mostly my parents because they supported me so much through my career. They sacrificed a lot. They dished out a lot of money so I can have a better education to help me get into this career. And so I thought that if I left, all that support, all that money would just mean nothing because I didn't even do what I said I was going to do. And this fear of being a failure popped up definitely quite a few times throughout my transition out of news. And I know from my healing journey that part of doing the inner work is getting curious as to what's actually causing that thought. What is actually causing that reaction, or what is causing that pattern you may notice in your life? And so when it comes to reframing your mindset, again, you need to be really curious. You have to ask yourself questions. This is where the self-coaching really helped. I had to ask myself questions to figure out the root cause of this thought of you're going to be a failure if you leave. It's so important to address the root cause. It reminds me of, okay, I don't want to say most people. I'm going to speak from my own experience. When I have a headache, I go straight for the fucking Tylenol or Advil to get rid of the headache. When I know damn well the root cause of majority of my headaches are because I fucking don't drink enough water. I'm fucking dehydrated. I never address the root cause. I just go for the easy way out and pop the Tylenol. We need to address the root cause when it comes to thoughts that are not serving us. So I knew that it was definitely deeper than me just thinking, oh, I was a failure. So I was able to self-coach myself, and I used, it's called the downward arrow technique. It's a tool I learned in therapy. It's a CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And I also learned it in a lot of my coaching programs. If you're not familiar with the downward arrow technique, I wish I could show you guys. I need to do this podcast on a video. That's coming soon, guys. Don't worry. But I'll talk you through the downward arrow technique. You could also go on Google if you want to see what it looks like. But essentially, this tool helps you figure out the core belief that's causing you to think a certain thought, a thought that is not helping you. So what you do is you ask yourself, okay, if this thought is true, then what does it mean about me? And you just continue to ask yourself until you get to the core belief. So let me talk you through this. So reminder, my thought was, if I leave news, I'm a failure. So I ask myself, self-coaching, I actually wrote this out, but I asked myself, okay, if I'm a failure, if I leave news and I'm a failure, then what does that mean about me? Well, if I'm a failure, then it means I'm a horrible reporter. If I'm a horrible reporter, then it means I don't belong in this industry. If I don't belong in this industry, then it means I don't deserve to have this job. If I don't deserve to have this job, then I'm worthless. Ding, 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 ding. We have found the core belief. One of the main core beliefs people have is I'm not worthy. And so that was the core belief under this thought of I'm a failure if I leave news. So when we put it into context when it comes to switching careers, I believed I'm not worthy enough to do that. As I said before, it's not that I believe I'm a failure. Subconsciously, it's I believe I'm not worthy enough to leave news and succeed in another career. And so I was able to recognize that this really stemmed from self-worth. So I am such a huge fan of affirmations. So I decided to come up with affirmations focused on self-worth. And I love affirmations so much. I think words are so powerful. The words that we say to ourselves make a huge impact. So some of the self-affirmations that I wrote was, I am enough. I deserve to be happy. My favorite one, I trust in my decisions and my choices. And so I posted those on my mirror, said them every morning. But the thought of being a failure, it still kept popping up. But I also know that healing is not linear. Just because I kept having the thought of, oh, I'm a failure, doesn't mean I'm not healing, doesn't mean I'm growing. The growth comes to how you respond to that thought. That's the real growth, is how you respond. So I remember just being like, okay, it's a little deeper. We need to go a little deeper. And something that I love to do is inner child work. I love healing my inner child. It took therapy and coaching to realize that how I operate in life as an adult, a lot of that is due to my childhood. And so, sorry, I had to burp again. Oh my gosh, the spaghetti. Okay. Getting back to inner child healing, let me just get back in the zone. I really hope you guys couldn't hear the burp in the podcast mic. Anyways, so inner child healing. If you're not familiar with inner child healing, this is, how do I explain this? It's essentially giving yourself what you needed as a child. So what I did was I journaled. I asked myself, what is the earliest memory I could think of where I felt like a failure because I was giving up on something? And so I journaled about that, and I don't know the exact age I was with this memory, because it happened multiple times as I was in grade school. So the memory that I was able to journal about, I remember doing homework, and it was just hella overwhelming. Like I was probably math, honestly. And I was just so overwhelmed. I needed a break. I wanted to give up. And I was just so stressed. I started crying. I didn't want to do it anymore. And I remember that whenever I felt very overwhelmed and I wanted to give up on homework, or not, I wouldn't even say give up. I just wanted some time to step away from it. But anyways, I remember my parents, they would yell at me. And they'd be like, just finish it. Like, sit down and focus. Like, how hard is that to focus and just finish it? And then I would cry even more because then I felt even more overwhelmed. Like, I just wanted to stop. I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted a break. And the crying never helped because then it would just cause my parents to yell at me even more. And sometimes my parents would hit me. And in that moment, journaling about that, I was able to then connect that childhood memory to my current situation. I'm scared to leave, to quote unquote give up on news because there's a fear of getting in trouble. There's a fear of getting punished like how I did when I was a child. So while adult Amanda wants to leave, little Amanda is like, no, you can't leave. You can't give up. We're going to get in trouble. And you know what happens when you're in trouble. Again, it was never about being a failure. It was just this fear of punishment. As adults, many of our reactions, many of our thoughts are actually coming from our younger selves. Like, yes, we age, yes, we grow up, but our child selves still remain within us. So I knew I needed to write a letter to younger Amanda. And I love writing letters to younger Amanda. This is not the first time I've written a letter to my younger self. And so I wrote a letter to grade school Amanda, and I told her, we're safe. It's okay. We're not going to get in trouble if we leave. We're not going to get in trouble if we take a step away from things and try again, try something new. And I gave younger Amanda everything that she needed when she was getting yelled at by mom and dad for wanting to give up. I gave her love. I gave her safety. And I think writing a letter to your younger self is just so powerful, and it's such a release. And I really believe that inner child healing is just so important. Everyone needs to heal some part of their inner child. So I encourage you all, the next time you become aware of a thought or a feeling that is very limiting, ask yourself, be curious, ask yourself and journal, when was the earliest memory you felt that exact same way? And what did you need in that moment? And give that to yourself. If you want to move differently as an adult, you have to unlearn and reframe the things you experienced as a child. And most importantly, if you do write a letter to your inner child, don't have any shame, or don't shame your inner child for not knowing certain things. Like, we were kids. We don't know what we don't know, right? Give yourself grace and compassion. Now, the next thing I struggled with as I was transitioning out of my career was I needed to detach my identity from my career as a journalist. As I mentioned, journalism is truly a lifestyle. And I know many journalists who leave news and they go through essentially this identity crisis. They're like, who the fuck am I without news? There's actually a term psychologists use to describe this. It's called workplace enmeshment. So in the context of a career, enmeshment happens when an individual's professional identity takes over their personal identity. They begin to closely identify with their job, and that just causes their personal interests, their values, their hobbies to take a backseat. And this is something that I dealt with majority of my career in news. I think a big part is societal pressure in not even just in the news market, but just in today's competitive job market. A lot of people think that they have to dedicate themselves entirely to work to succeed. This causes people to overwork, it causes them to sacrifice, and you essentially believe that your personal life comes secondary to your professional life. I want to give an example of this mindset. So there is this guy who runs this website. I don't even want to say what the website is called. I don't even want to share his name because I do not support this man at all. I do not believe in what he's doing. But I just wanted to share kind of the mindset of why some journalists forget that they're not just journalists. They're not just only journalists. So anyways, this website, it's like, the best way I can describe it, it's like a gossip website. It's like, think of TMZ, but it's just focused on the news industry. So this guy always writes blogs and just gossips and essentially shames people in news for doing anything outside of journalism. I think he always like, oh my God, it just frustrates me even thinking about it. A news reporter can go to a music festival and, have fun and post a picture on her Instagram, enjoying herself, and he just shames her for it. Or maybe a team of like a news anchor, a news reporter, a meteorologist, they could post a dancing video and he just shames them because he's like, why are you dancing? Like, you should be taking this time to research articles or research a news story, or this is why people don't trust journalists, yada, 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 because journalists aren't doing their job. Like, it's as if his mindset is that every single second of your life, you need to be doing something related to journalism. And it frustrates me. It frustrates me because many people in this industry and many people in society forget that journalists are humans. And it causes journalists like myself, I forgot I was human first. I forgot I was human first and I was a journalist second. And so I operated with that mentality. I also think that social media can contribute to enmeshment because, oh Lord, social media just creates these unrealistic expectations of success and achievement in any industry. You can see someone on social media and you're like, oh shit, this person is doing that, so I need to do that too, so I can achieve that like her. It's just so hard not to compare yourself when you're on social media. And then you get caught up in like, oh, I need to do more. I need to do more. What I'm doing is not enough. Lastly, I believe that the need for validation also contributes to enmeshment. A lot of people believe that their worth is connected to the success they experience in their job. The more we succeed at our job, the more worthy we'll feel. This can make it very difficult to disconnect from work and pursue other personal interests because then you feel like your professional identity is at stake. It's like, oh, I can't spend the weekend playing tennis, something that I love to do, because I really need to be using that time to work on this next big project to hopefully get the promotion. So for me, in order to detach my identity to my career, I had to acknowledge that I had other interests aside from news. Like outside of news, I loved going to women empowerment conferences. I loved sharing my journey about growth to help others. That's why I started the podcast, right? I also became this go-to person when another podcaster wanted to discuss self-love. So I've been guests on many podcasts. I had to own those things. I didn't own those things before. So it might sound silly, but I ended up changing my bio on my Instagram. I don't think anyone ever like really looks at a bio, but my bio on social media, it was just about news. It literally was like news reporter in whatever city I was reporting in, story ideas question mark, here's my email. Like it just was all about being a news reporter. It didn't have anything else about what I enjoyed doing and all the other roles in my life. So I finally changed my bio to have it include every other hat I wore aside from being a reporter, podcaster, empowerment speaker, mental health advocate, dancer. And this is essentially a type of positive psychology. This is focusing on strengths and experiences that make you happy. And it's, again, I know it might sound funny, but let me tell you, the littlest tweaks can go so far when it comes to detaching your identity from your career. So, not only did I change my social media bio, I also rewrote my bio for when I was asked to MC at events or be a guest speaker at a conference. Because even in my bio there, all I did was talk about news, but instead I included my life's mission, things that I enjoy doing. I think it's so normal for people to ask that question of like, oh, what do you do? That's like our go-to when describing ourselves or introducing ourselves to people. I don't care about that anymore. I don't care about what you do. I want, what is your life purpose? What is your mission in life? What brings you joy in life? That is who you are. Your job is not who you are. And so, yeah, that was reflected in how I ended up writing my bio for different things. And honestly, it just slowly made me realize, okay, Amanda, okay, you are a multifaceted queen. You are much more than Amanda, the TV news reporter. And as I said earlier, when this workplace enmeshment happens, your hobbies really do take a backseat. So I started to do the things that brought me joy, which, if you know me, I was a dancer at the age of 3. I did competitive dancing. I love dancing. And so I started taking classes again. If I wasn't able to take a class, like even just learning a freaking dance on TikTok, like just brought joy back into my life. And so I'm honestly really glad I started this process of detaching my identity before I left news, before I even put in my resignation letter, because when I did finally put in my resignation letter, I already had a mindset of like, okay, well, I have so many other things that I'm good at. I have so many other things that light me up and I can be successful in. And I say that I'm glad I did that because I have heard from a lot of news reporters that when they left, they were like, okay, I'm out of news. Who the fuck am I? Who am I now? For me, that wasn't the case. I left news and I was excited for what was next because I was going to be able to focus on my podcast more. I could get back into dance classes, and I was also preparing to enter the entrepreneurial space. Oh my, wow. As they say in news, I buried the lead. I cannot believe I didn't mention this in the beginning. If you haven't followed me on Instagram, on social media, because I posted it there, but I'm officially in the coaching space. Yeah, I officially launched as a self-love and empowerment coach. And I'm just so excited. It might not come as a huge surprise to some, just because I have been in the coaching space as a client for 4 years now, and a lot of my friends are coaches. And so seeing the difference coaching made in my life and seeing how my friends are making a difference in others' lives, that's what I want. That actually was what I saw in my visualization, was being a coach, waking up and having tea and then getting ready for a client call. So that was that was my ideal day. And now it's true. Now I get to do that. Um, yeah, I'm just so excited because coaching is really how I can continue to live out my mission in life, and that is to empower women to get back to their most authentic selves and truly create a life that excites them and that they love. So, really excited for this journey, and yeah, it's only been like a month since I announced, and it's been great. So, hope you are enjoying this episode, but I really wanted to pop in here really quick now that I've, officially announced I'm a self-love and empowerment coach. Inspired by my own journey of leaving news, a career I had dreamed of since high school, I decided to launch my first coaching program called Embrace Your New Beginning. This is a program for those looking to transition out of their current career into a career that excites them and also aligns with their values and passions. This program is all about mindset. So if you've been thinking about leaving your job, but you're experiencing some of that mindset drama that I've been talking about, this program is for you. When it comes to a career change, our mindset is our greatest ally. It helps us shift from a state of limitation to one of possibility and empowerment. And I just want to add, leaving something that doesn't serve you anymore is one of the greatest acts of self-love. I am living proof that you can have a career that excites you and you can live the life you truly want. I'm still accepting clients for Embrace Your New Beginning, so let's hop on a free consultation call to learn if this program is a good fit for you. There's no commitment to joining the program either. The consultation call is so you can learn more about the program and so I can understand what your end goals are. Imagine sending in applications without second guessing if you meet the required skills of the job. Imagine nailing interviews because you're so confident in the skills you possess and how much value you'll bring to your potential employer. Imagine having a work-life balance so you can truly enjoy that 2-week vacation. All of that is possible for you. Book a consultation call with me. I'll post the link to book in this episode's show notes, and you can always hit me up on Instagram, @AguilarTV. But let's get back to the episode, shall we? All right, so another mindset shift I had to work towards was moving past the fear of being in a new career field and learning new things. I was in journalism for 10 years. And in the TV news industry, you're under a contract. It's either a 2-year contract, maybe a 3-year contract. It really depends. But anytime my contract was coming to an end and I was applying to my next job, I always knew the next job I was going to be in news. I was still going to be in the news industry. I already had an idea of what my job responsibilities were going to be. Maybe I didn't know the exact position I'd get or where I'd end up, but I knew it was always in news. This time around, I had no fucking clue what position I would end up in. I didn't know what company I was going to be at. I knew I wanted to stay in the communications field, but I don't know, was it going to be for nonprofit? Was it going to be for a tech startup? Was it going to be for education? I don't fucking know. There was so much uncertainty. And if you're like me, uncertainty is scary as fucking hell. Uncertainty causes me to overthink. I am the queen of overthinking. And this uncertainty of what my future was going to look like, it just caused me to catastrophize. This is when you come up with the worst case scenarios. Uncertainty also takes away this control I have in my life. So I felt very powerless in a way. Uncertainty also makes me feel not good enough. I think that society values certainty and decisiveness. So there was this fear of being judged because I didn't know my next step in my future. I remember telling my parents that I wanted to leave news. And of course, they asked, all right, well, what's your plan afterwards? And I didn't have a plan. I was just like, I don't know. I just want to leave. And my mom told me, no. like you wish, you're not just gonna leave. You need to find a job before you put in your resignation letter. And I have gotten to a point in my growth journey where I realized that people can project their own fears onto you. And our parents do that quite a lot. So I knew my parents weren't trying to like discourage me from leaving news, but they wanted me to be prepared. I mentioned this a little earlier, when it comes to parents who are immigrants. My dad immigrated to America from the Philippines. My mom was born here in California, though, but both of them had to work and do whatever they could to provide for our family. So, a stable income, a stable job, that certainty, they needed to have that in order to survive and provide. So I get why. I get why leaving a job with no clue with what I'd be going into, I get why that could cause them to feel scared about my future. But at the same time, I wasn't going to let their fears hold me back from changing my life. And this is really where cognitive reframing helped me move past my own fears. It wasn't just them that was scared of change, it was also me. And so, thankfully, again, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I was working with a business mindset coach, and she helped me when it came to these worst case scenarios that was kind of causing the fear of change, of going to a new career field. And so the worst case scenario exercise, it's called if then. It essentially has you answer, okay, if this worst case scenario did come true, then how would you respond? How would you respond? We never really ask ourselves that question when we come up with these scenarios. And it's so important to ask, how would you respond? Because when we catastrophize, we get so caught up and have tunnel vision of the negative, it's almost impossible to see the whole situation from a different perspective. So the if-then method allows us to visualize how to handle what could go wrong, and it really gives us a little bit more control in a challenging situation. So for me, my worst case scenario was, well, leaving news is going to end up being the biggest mistake of my life, and then I'm going to fucking regret it. If then method. So if that happens, then what? How are you going to respond? How are you going to cope? Well, if that happens, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to cry. I'm probably going to eat my feelings. Okay, if that happens, then what? Well, I'm probably not going to enjoy feeling like that for too long. So I'm probably going to get this like kick of motivation to then apply to news jobs. Do you see that this worst case scenario of me thinking I was going to make the biggest mistake in my life and regret it, in the end, if I play it out, I would be applying to jobs in news again. Eventually, I would have a job in news again. If then method really helps you shift your perspective to see that it's not the end of the world. I was able to see right there, I can always go back to news if I regret it. But I will tell you right now, I don't miss it and I don't regret leaving news at all. My worst case scenario didn't even come true. Another worst case scenario that my coach led me through was, I'm not going to have the skills to even succeed in my new fucking job. If that happens, then what? What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to definitely feel very discouraged. Then what? Then I would probably ask my manager for feedback. Okay, and then after that, what happens? Well, once we have that conversation, then I'll probably work on what he or she talked to me about. Or maybe I'll go on YouTube and look at a free course about the skill I need to improve on. Okay, and so what happens after that? Well, after learning and, working on the skill, I'll definitely feel more confident in my skills. You see, me not being good at a new job, that's not the end of the world. Like, of course you're going to feel scared to go into a new career field. There are going to be things you might not feel confident in, but that doesn't mean you'll never be confident in it. And I really believe in divine timing, because after I did the if-then method with my coach, a couple days later, I was searching for some stories that I did as a reporter, because this potential employer wanted to see some of my video shooting and video editing skills. And so I was going through a lot of my stories, and I stumbled upon my very first live shot as a news reporter. Oh my God, you guys, it was so cringe to watch. I was like, that was fucking rough. But then I was like, damn, your live shots have improved so much throughout the years. Yeah, in 2016, I wasn't a strong reporter when it came to live shots. But then I asked for help, and then I looked at other reporters and saw how they were doing their live shots, and I ended up becoming a strong reporter during live shots. It was just such a good reminder that, okay, I might not be 100% confident in this certain skill that's needed to do my next job, but I can always get there. There's a quote, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So as we come to the close of this episode, I really just want, and I really hope you leave this episode just understanding that your mindset is the key to unlocking the next chapter of your life. If your beliefs are limiting in any type of way, it is going to limit you from progressing. Letting go of the familiar, it is fucking tough. But focus on the possibility. Don't focus on the fear. Focus on the possibility, because that allows you to open yourself up to new opportunities. And if you're listening to this episode and you are thinking about changing careers, realize that transitioning out of a career, it's not about changing jobs. That's something that I learned once I left news. I didn't just change jobs. I was evolving. I was going through my own evolution. I was evolving into a version of myself that is more aligned with who I have been working hard to become. So, take that leap, believe in your potential, and most importantly, trust the process. Thank you all for listening to this episode of Embrace Her Evolution. I cannot wait to record more episodes now that I have more time and more energy. So definitely keep a lookout for the next episode. And here is to embracing change with confidence. Thank you so much for tuning in to Embrace Her Evolution. With each episode, my hope is you get closer to your most authentic self and you begin to create a life you love and deserve, because you deserve it all and more. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love if you could rate it or leave a review, and feel free to share Embrace Her Evolution with your friends, your family, your dog, social media, whoever you believe would benefit from this podcast. With your constant support, I'm able to continue empowering women. Also, if you haven't signed up for my email list, why not? This will keep you up to date on everything Embrace Her Evolution. Plus, it will give you access to some free worksheets. Right now, I'm offering a jealousy map worksheet. I talked about this in episode 3, so if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it now. It will help you use the feeling of jealousy as a map to your desires. I truly believe a way to embrace your evolution is sitting by yourself and doing reflection, and these worksheets will help you get started. You can find a link to my email list and the worksheet download in the show notes. You'll also find my Instagram there. I love love connecting with people, so make sure you give me a follow. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for allowing me to be part of your evolution.